This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
It's the Sunday edition. It's a busy couple of hours straight ahead. We had a full Saturday in the National Hockey League with 11 games on the schedule. A light schedule on Sunday, only 3 games. They all have afternoon start times in the Eastern Conference. It's okay. I'm good with it. I can work with that. And we return to a sort of more normal schedule this week. But a lot of stories to get into from last night in the National Hockey League. And in the last few days, we will look ahead to the week coming up and much more. John Walton, radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, will join us momentarily to talk about a Caps victory on Saturday night against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Also coming up, Dave Isaac of the Courier Post, who covers the Philadelphia Flyers, will be joining us this hour as well. Philadelphia Flyers, man, these are tough times at Philly. A little tougher than a lot of people expected. Bryan Burns covers the Tampa Bay Lightning. He will be with us this hour as well. It's back-to-back losses now for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and they will continue out on the road with a stop in Buffalo. We'll get the latest on the Tampa Bay Lightning. New York Rangers with a home contest at Madison Square Garden this afternoon. Justin Tasch covers the Rangers for the New York Daily News. He will be with us on the program as well. And of course, it is Sunday, and that means our regular weekly visit from Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. If you're following on Twitter, following on Instagram, we ask you to do so, and thank you for doing so, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. And we always try to keep it fairly busy on social media, tweeting out links to good stories and things like that are happening. So please follow us on social media at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email address to join us as well. As mentioned, there were 11 games on the National Hockey League on Saturday, the typical busy Saturday. All evening contests, though. We haven't had the afternoon contest. We get, I guess, the makeup for all of that today, and it is all Saturday afternoon contests because of the championship of the Canadian Football League that is taking place. We'll get into that and much more. One of the games we want to pay focus and attention to was the victory last night by the Washington Capitals over the Toronto Maple Leafs, a 4-2 final. And John Walton, the radio play-by-play voice of the Capitals, joins us now. You can follow him on Twitter at Walton Caps. John, I guess this was vintage Alex Ovechkin performance, big stage, big night, lots of attention, and Alex Ovechkin comes through with a hat trick to help lead the Capitals to a victory.
Yeah, and it was really something that I guess had been building for a little while over the course of the last 5 games, Todd. I mean, this team really wasn't all that great going into last week where, you know, they lost in Nashville and it wasn't their greatest effort, and then possibly the most lopsided loss in Barry Trotz's tenure as Washington coach in Denver. And the Caps were in need of some good news. And by and large, since last Saturday, they've gotten it with a win over Minnesota. And you saw it building and coming up with another victory over Ottawa, the win over Tampa Bay, and then capped off last night by vintage Ovechkin performance in coming up with a hat trick. First goal he scored might have been his prettiest of the year. And he's had a few that have been certainly right up there on that list. But I thought he was tremendously engaged from the opening puck drop last night. The Caps had not been very good at playing on back-to-back nights. They had not won a game in the second half of back-to-backs all year until last night. And Alex has put him on his back and carried him last night. It was a great performance by him, and the Caps suddenly have won 4 or 5 in a row.
And I guess this is the thing we were wondering about with the Washington Capitals, that there was going to be a transition that occurred with this team because of the roster turnover that took place during the offseason. So it was probably going to take the Caps a little bit of time to get their feet under them. They had to deal with some injuries early on in the season, particularly to the defense corps, which had already been thinned out and then was thinned out further because of the injuries. But maybe now we're past the quarter mark. Maybe we're starting to find the time that the Caps understand what they are and who they have to be as a team to be successful.
This season, to ask Barry Trotz or the coaching staff and the players, I don't know that process is going to be that goes the entire season. Hopefully are behind them, but I don't think they're entirely behind them. Madison Bowie continuing to grow as an NHLer. Christian Juice has been injured, but in all likelihood going to be back from an upper body injury pretty soon. they are leaning on different parts of the roster with a lot of turnover. I mean, that game in Denver I was talking about, I mean, half the roster that night didn't play for Washington the year before. And I think when you are trying to build that identity, and that's something that you hear in the room a lot, and part of that is figuring out, who they are now. In the past couple of seasons, when they were winning President's trophies, they didn't have to play their best on some nights, and they still, just with the overwhelming offense they had, they were winning hockey games anyway. They don't have that luxury anymore. And I think that to a man in the room where Braden Holtby different nights and, won games that maybe they wouldn't have won otherwise, now with the win over Tampa Bay and winning for Philip Grubauer, the win in Toronto in the back half in 2-2. And I like the fact that, and Todd Reardon specifically, who runs the defense as associate head coach, even last night, Toronto gets 2 quick goals in the third period, 3-0. And you think, oh boy, here we go. But they never, he didn't. Madison Bowey was out there just as much in the third period as he was some of the season, because that's the experience that's going to help him out in the long run. And I think Madison Bowey's done a tremendous job. Juice has done a nice job as well. Hopefully he's back in soon. Those are kind of the focal points on the back end. But even up front, I mean, Alex Chason comes in on a PTO, gets a contract, and, is trying to keep his career going. I think he's played some of his best hockey over the last 2 or 3 games. I don't think we saw a lot in the first month, certainly offensively from him, but we've seen some contributions there. Devontae Smith-Pelly, same thing. And that's who they're going to be. And I think as you get into December and January and get into the stretch run, the Metropolitan Division and to the top, that's advantage Washington through what.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting stretch for the Washington Capitals. John Walton is our guest, the radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals. At Walton Caps is how you follow him on Twitter. 4-2, they get the victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night. I mentioned it off the top, and I should have gone into it further right away, but the big stage and all the attention with Alex Ovechkin, as he has performed well on Saturday nights especially, the big night, hockey night in Canada, in across Canada broadcast. He has performed well in the past, and he may have elevated that to another level on Saturday night with his attention to young Alex Louis, who he got to know recently and was a guest of Alex Ovechkin at the game last night. Had him on the bench for warm-ups, said, yeah, sure, we'll score a goal. Well, he went above and beyond that. This, of course, as part of the Hockey Fights Cancer initiative of the National Hockey League, and it was for the Maple Leafs at their game last night. It was just a special night, I think, for both young Alex Louis and Alex Ovechkin to have the two of them come together and have such a warm and wonderful reception by both.
Yeah, it really was neat. And on a Saturday night, game where the Caps, get in late the night before, and he's so good with kids. And between what he did pregame and saying that he wanted to get him a goal, he ends up getting 3, which was just wonderful. And thinking about the pregame and watching that drive up ice when he looked like 20-year-old Alex Ovechkin. And if he didn't have a little bit of extra push in him last night in the 2 more. Barry Trotz did the same thing afterward and talking in his media scrum about young, having him in the room and reading the lineup before the game. Hockey guys are great guys. And if, we see it on a daily basis, and you should never just let it pass by and take it for granted because, these guys, they know how big and important they are in the communities they represent. For Ovechkin in Washington and, in Toronto, the Maple Leafs rule everything. And, that's the stuff when you're in the bubble and you talk about winning and losing hockey games. Barry Trotz said it best after the game last night is, we focus on stuff day in and day out about winning, but there's so much more to the game than that. And what you mean to people in the community, it's really special. And Alex, this is nothing new. I mean, we've seen him do this in our community a lot, and, to see him do it in Toronto last night, I don't know that you're going to find a better guy with kids, but there are so many guys that are, you're so giving of their time. And, you're hockey league, you're proud to be part of the Washington Capitals, and you're proud to be part of, the greatest game on earth. I mean, this is why we do what we do. And, it's just another reminder that what we get to do every day is pretty special. And it's also pretty special when you get to be around guys like Alex Ovechkin.
John Walton is our guest, radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals. Caps with a 4-2 victory over the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday night. Interesting now that they get a little bit of a break, the Caps do. You mentioned that they've been on a pretty good roll and picking up points and winning games, and now they get a little bit of a break. I imagine there's at least one day off as part of the whole rules and regulations about what you can and can't do. Is there an indication of what Barry Trotz plans to do over the next few days before the Caps' next game against the LA Kings on Thursday?
Well, today's an off day, and I would imagine just from what we've seen from Barry Trotz, practice 3 straight days. Sometimes there's a team-building activity. Sometimes there's a day off. I would say, even though it's been a struggle for this team, I think having the time to not necessarily take the foot off the gas, but being able to get a breather and get healthy, and hopefully a guy like Christian Juice is ready to go by the time that you get to Thursday, or certainly into what is going to be a 5-game homestand. This is an important stretch for the Caps, and how they manage it will be, I guess, a little bit interesting this week. But this is a stretch of 9 home games in 10 after what was a brutal month of October, where they played 8 of 12 on the road, a back-to-back in division with New Jersey and Philadelphia. They had 3 back-to-backs before Halloween. But now they finally, they've gotten into the season, and they've righted the ship and have seemingly, I don't know if you can say that it's stuck, but, winning 4 of 5, this is certainly the best stretch that they've had all season. A little bit of a mental recharge over the next few days probably wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. They're going to go pretty much every other day for the next 2 weeks once they start playing against LA on Thursday, and then back on the road once they get into the meat of the schedule in December. One thing through the course of the marathon that's certainly not a sprint, when you've got a chance to, get some rest for your guys, it may be getting to that point of the season, maybe that, the first quarter mark of the year now behind you and getting into the second quarter. A little bit of time here or there certainly wouldn't be a bad thing.
No, it's the difficult part of managing. How much do you practice? What do you do? How engaged? You want to let guys have some rest and have that mental break as much as anything else. And I guess Barry Trotz has got a pretty good handle on it. Hey, John, if I can, one more quick one just before I let you go. I want to ask you about Lars Eller, who I think, especially early on this season, has really shown that he can be a significant part of the Washington Capitals. And I like what I've seen from him at different times through the season, through the first 25 games.
He has been, and we've had a little fun on our airwaves, and I know the Washington Post too. Jay Beagle has taken to calling Lars the Tiger, which fits in great. It just, last year there was a name that kind of stuck, and he really was, the straw that was stirring it for a while when the top 6 was quiet, and they were having their struggles at the end of October and even into November. Lars Eller was holding it together and was doing it with some goals at even strength, winning a lot of battles in the D zone, and, making guys better around him. I think that's the thing that over the course of now getting into second season in Washington that people may not understand if they don't watch every day. Brett Connolly got 15 goals after it looked like his career could have been over, coming from Boston. And, Brett had a really nice year last year. We saw Jacob Brana slide into that slot. We saw, guys who have been, trying to find their way offensively. He's kind of a good doctor down there. Play with Lars for a little bit, and, you get a few pucks coming your way. And, that's the hope for Tom Wilson, too, who's primarily been on that third line before getting elevated 2 games ago, where he was playing with Lars. He's a guy that Barry Trotz and the coaching staff count on a lot. And, it doesn't always have the numbers, and he's on a team, especially last year, filled with superstars. It's a name that, might slip through a lot of people. But he's been an important part of what's gone on around here this year, and especially with the transition. I think last year, he was kind of an ancillary piece with, a top 6 that was overwhelmingly good. And a team in transition, he's become a mainstay. And I think you're right. I think he's a guy that, even if he'd been overlooked in the past, he's meant a lot. And, hopefully the Tiger comes up with a few more goals here as we move along.
John Walton, radio play-by-play voice of the Washington Capitals, at Walton Caps, to follow him on Twitter. Always appreciate the time, John. Thank you so much, and hopefully you get a little time off in the next couple days too. Thanks to John Walton of the Washington Capitals for joining us. It was a terrific story about Alex Ovechkin and young Alex Louis. There's a terrific piece on NHL.com that our friend Mike Zeisberger has put together. We have tweeted out the link to it. We'll put that up as well. You should check it out. It's well worth it. Just a wonderful story in this time of Hockey Fights Cancer and that campaign that continues. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Lots to get to in hour number one. Bryan Burns will join us a little bit later on to talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning. Dave Isaac from the Courier Post next to talk Philadelphia Flyers. That's coming up right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, Sunday edition, here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, streaming live at hockeyunfiltered.com and on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio. Lots to get to today with 11 games on the Saturday schedule, 3 afternoon contests for Sunday. Bryan Burns will join us a little bit later on this hour. We'll talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, who have dropped back-to-back games. Philadelphia Flyers have dropped way more in a row than they would like to. 7 straight losses now. Dave Isaac covers the Philadelphia Flyers for the Courier Post. You can follow him on Twitter at Dave G. Isaac. Dave, where did it all go wrong for Philadelphia? What's happened in these last couple of weeks?
How much time do you have, Todd?
As much as you need.
A team that has they've kind of established themselves as a one-line team from very early on in the season, and I think there were a lot of questions about that one line with Sean Courier as the number one center, Claude Giroux moving from center to wing, and that part of it has worked out rather well. The rest of it, not so much. Several scoring slumps in this team. A couple of them were broken in the last game. Wayne Simmons hadn't scored in 14, and Shane Gostisbehere in 13, I believe, and both of those guys got on the board. But this is a team that had a 2-goal lead in the third period and choked on it, quite frankly, and they've done that several times in this 7-game losing streak. You start to fall down that rabbit hole pretty quickly, and I think that's what's going on with this team right now. They, even when they have a lead, they don't have confidence.
That's I think the disturbing part as much as anything for Flyer fans and hockey fans is that it looks like the Flyers will be in good position, as you mentioned, a 2-goal lead, and then it disappears quickly because of breakdowns, and that's got to be as frustrating for the players and coaching staff and fans as much as anything.
Yeah, and I think they've gotten pretty decent goaltending from Brian Elliott, at least. Michael Neuvirth went in the other day. Wasn't against the Islanders, but it was just terrible. But Elliott's given them a chance to win, at least this past season. The team just hasn't produced enough. Those breakdowns are happening in front of a goalie that's playing well. If they weren't getting decent goals. But yeah, the defensive breakdowns are certainly a part of it, and you get but it's not. And that is what I think is the bigger concern for this Flyers team.
Dave Isaac is with us, covers the Flyers for the Courier Post, at Dave G. Isaac to follow him on Twitter. Philadelphia Flyers get back in action against the Pittsburgh Penguins on Monday. I just noticed you tweeted out there may be a bit of a different lineup as well. Looks like Jori Lehtera is going to get back into the lineup for the Philadelphia Flyers, correct?
Yeah, and I believe Dale Weiss as well. Just watching practice right now, and it looks like both of them, which was another line that had been pretty good for the Flyers, but they've dropped off considerably, and they were actually pretty bad against the Islanders the other day. Scott Lawton in the middle of that line, and it had been Taylor Lear and Michael Raffl. Raffl has moved up in the lineup, scored his first goal, actually it was his first point, goal or assist, in 43 games in the first half of that home-and-home with the Islanders. He's moved up to the third line, and it looks like Taylor Lear, who wasn't even part of the penalty kill last game, could come out of the lineup, and maybe even same with Jordan Wheel, who just hasn't really looked himself recently. So Dave Hakstol is trying to push what happens as a result, and it certainly doesn't look like an optimal lineup from an offensive perspective from a team that's struggling to score. Lehtera has no goals this season. Weiss has 2, but haven't been very good with the puck on his stick. So he's just kind of, throwing the spaghetti up against the wall and hoping that it sticks, I think.
Were the expectations for the Philadelphia Flyers unrealistic at the start of this season? And again, I guess it depends on who you are and what kind of expectations you had for the Philadelphia Flyers. But I thought that after last year, it seemed as though things were moving in the right direction. It's easy to have the take this season that it's taken a step back and things aren't progressing as well. But there's still so much promise with this team, with a lot of good young players in the pipeline. Some have made it up to the big club, and some are still to come.
Yeah, and again, it's not these young guys that are the ones making the lion's share of the mistakes. Certainly you're going to have rookies that make mistakes, and the Flyers have had them, but they really haven't been the backbreakers. It's been the veteran guys that are making those blunders. Shane Gostisbehere in overtime in the first Islanders game lets his man get away. Jake Voracek in the second one, he admitted it after the game, said, "I was caught puck watching." These are guys that have time of service. That are making these mistakes. And you ask about the expectations going into the year. You're right. I guess it depends on which expectation you're talking about. I thought they would be a bubble team. I thought that was realistic. I thought that based on the makeup of the division, that was realistic. But I don't think many people thought that the New Jersey Devils would be this high up in the Metropolitan Division. I thought that the Flyers would have a leg up on them. I thought the Rangers might take a step back. They're starting to find life again. I thought that a playoff spot was attainable for this team, and they started out really well, and it looked like, oh yeah, they could definitely do that. Now they're a couple games out of a playoff spot, and usually, that U.S. Thanksgiving stat, right? If you're not in by then you're probably not getting in. Well, it's starting to get late pretty early here in Philly.
Yeah, the other thing that I've heard a little bit of, a lot of we'll call it speculation at best over the last little while, is when your season is not going as well as you had hoped it would be, even if you're not a bubble team, as I think was also reasonable for the Philadelphia Flyers, there's the suggestion of, change needs to happen, and the easiest change to make is a coaching change. I don't think coaching is the issue with the Philadelphia Flyers. I like what Dave Hakstol has done, and I think that would be a mistake, but I suspect that talk is going to get louder if things don't improve significantly quickly.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm not so sure that I completely agree there. I think that when you have a team that's making disciplined mistakes, and not just trips to the penalty box, but in terms of careless mistakes as part of the systematic play, I think that does have something to do with the coach. And, we've seen coaches fired for less in this league. Now, I think that Dave Haxtell is going to have a longer leash than most to get this guy from the NCAA that not a lot of people were really very knowledgeable about. I mean, you hear the name because they took so many trips to the Frozen Four, but in terms of who he is as a guy that could potentially have an NHL job someday, I don't think a lot of people were thinking about that. So that was he really stuck his neck out there, Ron Hextall, to make that hire. And this is year 3 of Dave Haxtell. I believe he had a 5-year contract. It'll be interesting to see if they don't cut the ties here, because this is a team that isn't, improving, I don't think. I mean, the coach talks after the last game about how they've got points in 7 of 10 games, which may be right, but they've lost 7 in a row, and they've coughed up 2-goal leads in plenty of them. That's really just screaming of desperation for a guy that's really searching for any shred of positivity he can find.
Yeah, that's a fair point as well. It just seems as though this is a team that is rebuilding, as much as that phrase doesn't want to get used by Philadelphia Flyer fans, and that takes time. We've seen the benefits of patience with some of the younger players, especially on defense, with Provorov and Gostisbehere that have made their way out. Morand is now also making an appearance on the Philadelphia Flyers roster. There's more good things to come, and I just don't want to throw it all away in the sense that, well, a coaching change will shake things up and maybe boost things for a while, but not necessarily be the best move in the long run. Hey, Dave, I want to ask you too about one player in particular, and that would be Nolan Patrick, who missed a couple of games because of injury, that he's back. But I've tried to watch him closely recently. Give me your assessment on what you've seen so far for this number 1 draft choice for the Philadelphia Flyers. At times, it looks to me like he needs to work on his skating.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's also the kind of player that wanted to come in, especially with Dave Haxtell and this kind of system that he runs, and be very responsible defensively. People were expecting some of that offense that he had 2 years ago with the Brandon Wheat Kings, when he had, I believe it was a 100-point season, because he didn't miss that much time that year due to injury. That offense hasn't really been there. And Haxtell said that he thought early on in the season that was the case for Patrick. He was focusing so much on the defense that the offense just wasn't coming naturally to him. We talked about Wayne Simmons and how he kind of had that goal-scoring drought. The Flyers have Simmons on Patrick's wing right now. You kind of expect more from both of those guys. Patrick's no shrimp. I mean, he's a big body. Simmons is obviously one of the bigger power forwards in the NHL and can go to the net. I think that Patrick really has to kind of bring a little bit more to the table offensively. And I don't know I think the, skating, not necessarily the speed, I agree with you, needs some work. But he's a guy that ever since that injury, and, it's believed to be a concussion, it was definitely a head injury, had bounced off the boards. He's been a little bit slow to come back. I wouldn't say that he's shied away from physical play necessarily, but he just doesn't look quite right just yet. But maybe that's something that'll come here. I don't know. It's been maybe 2 weeks since he returned. So the Flyers certainly are hoping that he's got a little bit more room to grow before he starts feeling like himself.
Yeah, is that it? Just a little reluctant to engage almost? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I mean, the play in which he got hurt was a clean play. It was Wagner from Anaheim. Hit him shoulder to shoulder, but the whiplash effect to that, his head bounced off the boards. And I mean, he said it the next day. He goes, yeah, I got to put myself in a better position. So I think there's a little bit of that, not necessarily shying away from contact, but am I leaving myself vulnerable here? That I think might go through a young player's mind at that spot, especially his first year in the league.
Right. That makes sense. Dave Isaac covering the Philadelphia Flyers for the Courier Post, at Dave G. Isaac, to follow him on Twitter. Great stuff as always, Dave. We appreciate the time and look forward to doing it again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, Todd.
Thanks, Dave Isaac of the Courier Post covering the Philadelphia Flyers, trying to snap that 7-game losing streak. A tough way to do it against Pittsburgh, although maybe that's the best thing. Maybe you need to go up against a rival team across state, the way the Philadelphia and Pittsburgh rivalry has evolved. We know all about the teams. The phrase, these two don't like each other, gets used so often. Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be playing in another outdoor game in 2019. We'll have a little bit more on that later on. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Lots to get to today following a busy Saturday in the National Hockey League. Bryan Burns will talk Tampa Bay Lightning in the next segment. Also coming up, Justin Tasch with the New York Rangers info, and Stephen Laidlaw with the Fantasy 5. Our regular Sunday feature, hashtag is Fantasy 5. Help for you and your fantasy hockey pool. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Welcome back. It's the Sunday edition. It's the Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis here, streaming live at hockeyunfiltered.com and on the Hockey Unfiltered app, powered by Primetime Radio, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Busy show today with lots to get into after a full Saturday. Busy Friday as well. This Thanksgiving schedule, the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday has a quiet Thursday. Busy Wednesday, busy Friday, busy Saturday. I'm good with all that. Happy to welcome back to the program Bryan Burns, who covers the Tampa Bay Lightning for TampaBayLightning.com. You can follow him on Twitter at @BBurnsNHL. And Bryan, after a team that is off to such a good start as the Tampa Bay Lightning, #1 in the East, when they lose back-to-back games, that gets people's attention. Should we just kind of take a breath and relax a little bit? Everything's still okay with the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, really, this is the first that the Lightning have faced so far this year. They just, kind of cruised through those first 20 games of the season, piled up with regularity there. I mean, they leading the league for goals. They're, top 3 for goals against. The power play was getting better. Just see the first 20 games, and now we're seeing the first little bit of adversity for them. Losing back-to-back back at the Lightning's record through the years, those are two buildings that the Lightning just historically have not played well in at all. Following this weekend where they lost both of those games, they're 1-7-4 in their last 12 in DC. Then they followed that up. They're 1-11-1 in their last 13 regular season games in Pittsburgh. And I remember during that 2014-15 Stanley Cup run, they went to both of those buildings and lost pretty big in back-to-back nights in Washington and Pittsburgh too. So, no real panic. Those are two buildings where you'd like to see them come out with maybe a point or two. But historically, they haven't done well there, and it was just kind of more of the same this weekend.
It's nothing really to worry about, and no one ever wants to lose a game. Coaches certainly don't want to lose games. Players don't want to lose games. But when you lose back-to-back games and you look subpar defensively at times, as the Lightning did last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, sometimes that works in your favor in the long term, that, okay, this is just a reminder of some of the things that we need to do and things we need to do better if we're going to continue to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you could look at both of those games as kind of a wake-up call for the Lightning. And like I'd said earlier, in those first 20 games, things just kind of came so easily for them. The offense was clicking. The defense was getting better. Each time out, they had kind of a shaky performance in the first week of the season. But since then, it was something that they addressed, and they had gotten better and better each game out. There were really just no weaknesses over that first 20 games. And like you said, you never want to lose a game, but maybe this is a little bit of a wake-up call for the team. They need to work a little bit harder. They need to go back to doing some of those things they were doing over those first 20 games and just kind of reset and realize you're not going to win every game. There's going to be some adversity. There's going to be some pitfalls. It'll be interesting to see how this team responds. I mentioned that 2014-15 season that they had a couple years ago where they went to the Stanley Cup final. They games that entire regular season. This is the first time the Lightning have lost two back-to-back games following the loss Friday in Washington and Saturday in Pittsburgh. So it'll be really interesting to see how they respond when they come back out Tuesday in Buffalo.
Bryan Burns is with us, covers the Lightning for TampaBayLightning.com, at @BBurnsNHL to follow him on Twitter. It was the return, of course, of Chris Kunitz to Pittsburgh last night. Had the nice video tribute. How was he feeling going into this game? That was, I'm sure, a natural bit of nervousness going back into a place where he'd spent so much time and had so much success before moving to the Lightning in the summer.
Yeah, I'm not really sure it hit him probably until he stepped on the ice for that first time and realized that, he's wearing the opposing team's sweater. But he's been such a big part of this Lightning team so far. And he's already faced Pittsburgh twice. This was actually Saturday night's game was the final game of the three-game season series between Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. So he'd gone up against the Penguins twice. He'd already gotten that kind of opening jitters of facing your former team for the first time out of the way, those first couple games at Amalie Arena. I'm sure it was a little bit different as an opposing player, but he talked about it before the game that he really hadn't thought about it. He's just so entrenched into this Lightning season so far that he hadn't really thought about being back in Pittsburgh. So probably not much for him other than, getting back out on the ice for the first time and those first couple shifts were probably a little weird for him to deal with. But other than that, I'm sure it was smooth sailing for him.
The line of Vlad Namestnikov, Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos being talked about for their incredible production early on in the season. All of them have at least 10 goals. All of them are piling up the points. They're arguably the best line in hockey. I don't want to ask, is there concern, but is there attention being brought by John Cooper and the rest of the Lightning coaching staff to also make sure that the offense and attention gets spread out a little bit from those top three?
Yeah, and I think you've seen it here recently. That line has kind of been shut down the last 2 or 3 games. It seems like teams have kind of adjusted a little bit and are focused on taking away that trio. There's more of an emphasis on just kind of remaining with each player and not chasing the puck. Early in the season, teams are trying to chase the puck with that line, and it just led to some really pretty passing sequences between that trio, and that's how they were able to rack up so many points early on. But now teams have kind of adjusted. They're not playing the puck as much. They're trying to stay with their man as long as possible, and a lot of those passes that were connecting earlier are now getting blocked or intercepted. And you've seen the Lightning have kind of struggled here these last 3 or 4 games without that line clicking like it has been. So I think there is a little bit of concern that maybe there's too much emphasis placed on the scoring output from that top line. The second line has been a really good line for the Lightning as well, the Yanni Gourde, Andre Palat, Braden Point line. And that's been a really good secondary scoring line for the Bolts. Andre Palat scored a goal again last night. He has 3 in his last 4 games. He's starting to get going. But I think they'd like to see maybe a little bit more out of, the Tyler Johnsons, the Alex Killorns, the Ryan Callahans. Callahan's been a really good player on the fourth line for the Lightning, and that's been kind of a shutdown defensive line. But they could definitely use a little bit more offensive output out of Johnson and Killorn, maybe a little bit more out of that fourth line as well, just to kind of spread some of that scoring out amongst all 4 lines.
I was going to ask you about Braden Point, who's having a terrific season with 9 goals and 12 assists so far in this campaign with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Just another example of a good young player who's made his way up through the system. And hello? Still with me, Bryan? Not sure if we lost Bryan or not. I was just wanting to talk about Braden Point, who is another example of the good young players in the Tampa Bay Lightning system, draft them, develop them in the American Hockey League, and then move them up into the number 1 team. And that's what's happened with Braden Point so far this year, having himself a very good season. Are you still with me, Bryan? No, it looks like we might have lost Bryan, unfortunately, but that's just one of the good examples of how the Tampa Bay Lightning have drafted and developed their team. Braden Point was another one, and also the defenseman Jake Dotchin, who's been injured, but also another good example of how the Tampa Bay Lightning are. I've used this phrase before, and I think it's kind of appropriate with the Tampa Bay Lightning, that they're kind of the Detroit Red Wings 2.0, and that's understandable with Steve Yzerman, who has come in and taken on that general manager's role and done such a terrific job, learning so much from the Detroit Red Wings. But he's kind of evolved that process to something a little more refined and a little more current and a little more updated. Is that they're drafting and developing players, but they're also pushing players into the NHL lineup a little bit sooner and a little bit faster. I'm not sure if that's a conscious decision on the part of the Tampa Bay Lightning, but it seems like they're just kind of trying to push those players in a little bit quicker. They're giving them more responsibility at a younger age, and understanding that they are going to make mistakes, that there are going to be growing pains when they get into the lineup, but what they give you in terms of speed and skill and bring to their lineup outweighs some of the mistakes that they're going to make as young players. There's still a learning process. There's still an understanding of the difference between the NHL game and the American Hockey League game, or the junior hockey game, or European hockey, depending on where the players come from. But there is also a time that you want to push those young players into the lineup and understand that they are going to make a mistake or 2 or 3, but they're also going to give you great benefits. We're seeing this is why the league has become a younger and younger players game. In both the East and in the Western Conference, younger players stepping in, taking on larger roles, able to handle what is being asked of them on a nightly basis. And apparently we have got Bryan back. Bryan, I was just asking you about Braden Point before we lost you there for a second. I just think he's a really good example of how the Lightning operate. A young player drafted, developed, and quickly moved in to take on a significant role with the NHL team.
Yeah, absolutely. He was when he came into training camp, his way onto that roster and pushed out a couple of veteran guys like Aaron and Corey Conacher, who to make the team out of camp. Those guys got pushed to Syracuse. It took a little while to get on the score sheet as far as finding the back of the net. He had kind of snake bitten through the first 15, 20 games last year. Then once he finally did find the back of the net that first time, it's just the goals came in bunches for him. And he's really following his second year as a pro with the things in his game too. He's such a great two-way player. He doesn't just score, but defensively, he's not afraid to go into those corners and win some of those puck battles. The takeaway, hits. He just has a really good all-around game that we have grown that game a little bit more this year. He's fit in so well with that Yanni Gordon, Andre Palat line, and it's been a really good secondary scoring line for the Bolts.
The other player I want to ask you about is one we've heard so much about involving the trade with Jonathan Drouin is Mikhail Sergachev, who's come in and gotten all kinds of attention, taking up a terrific spot on the Tampa Bay Lightning point. We've seen him on special teams, and Mikhail Sergachev, there doesn't seem to be any more growing pains left for him, although I don't know if his output is going to continue at the same pace, but he's been absolutely terrific since starting the season.
Yeah, and I don't know that the Lightning really thought that that's what they were going to get out of Mikhail Sergachev so early in this season. I think he was pretty the team out of camp. There were questions as to whether or not he was going to be one of those top six defensemen, if he was going to be an everyday player, if it was better to put him on the bay for the season or maybe even junior. But everything was kind of set up for him. Make the squad. He did what he needed to do out of training camp to make the squad. And then in his first, 9 or so games, he really proved that he deserved to be there for the entirety of the season. He had a really good stretch from maybe his 4th game to his 7th game where he really started to get his feet wet in the league and understand what he needed to do and get comfortable. And then he was able to start racking up some assists. He's really been, like you said, he's been a great player on the power play. Kind of spell great shot from the point. He's been able to get it through quite a few times. He was able to get one through last night against Pittsburgh for the Lightning's first goal. Andre Palat got a tip on it, but it was Sergachev that set that goal up. And like you rightly say, it's unlikely that he's going to be able to keep up that scoring production throughout the season. But so far, it showed no sign of tapering off.
Yeah, it's been wonderful to see. Hey, is there an update on Jake Dotchin, too? Because I like him as a defenseman. I think he's got a huge upside still.
Yeah, still out with an undisclosed injury. I'm hearing the earliest he could come back was possibly Tuesday in Buffalo. Don't know if that's going to be realistic. Boston. So maybe... if he's not able to get back for that Buffalo game, maybe we'll see him Saturday when the Lightning come back home to take on the San Jose Sharks. But yeah, he's been a great addition for this team, really ever since he came into the league last year. He got 35 games in, pairing with Victor Hedman as a top pair, and really helped solidify the Lightning's defensive core all the way through. Really helped to solidify those pairings. And I think a little bit of the struggles the Lightning have had recently in these last couple games against Washington and Pittsburgh, a lot of that is due to Jake Dotchin not being there and John Cooper having to shift around the defensive pairings a little bit. I think once Jake Dotchin gets back, you'll see a little bit better return on the Lightning defense.
Bryan Burns covering the Lightning for TampaBayLightning.com, at BBurnsNHL to follow him on Twitter. Sorry we lost you. Glad we got you back for those final few updates. Always appreciate the time, Bryan, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Todd.
Thank you. Bryan Burns covering the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yes, they've lost back-to-back games, but these are the things that are going to happen. I think Bryan put it really nicely when he said everything just seemed to be going along smoothly without I don't want to say effortlessly, but there wasn't a lot of over-the-top effort that was necessary for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Things were clicking and running smoothly. Now you have to refocus. They were exposed a little bit defensively, especially in that game last night. Pittsburgh was snapping the puck around pretty good on the power play. These are things that sometimes provide a little bit of a wake-up call and get your team refocused on little attention to details. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Lots to get to today. Justin Tasch will join us. We'll talk about the Rangers and their contest today at Madison Square Garden hosting the Vancouver Canucks. It's Sunday, and of course that means our regular visit from Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DauberHockey.com. He will be with us as well with this week's Fantasy 5, #Fantasy 5. Lots of other stories from the games last night, other things going on in the league, mentioned outdoor games. Yes, we'll talk a little bit about that and a few other things as well. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you miss the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with SeatGiant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design, industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more.
Welcome back. This is the Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Every Saturday, every Sunday, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. We are here streaming live at hockeyunfiltered.com and on the Hockey Unfiltered app. You can download it now from the App Store. We're live on Periscope. We are live on Facebook, YouTube Live, and of course, yes, on the Hockey Unfiltered app. A busy second hour coming up. Good guest lineup as well with Justin Tasch from the New York Daily News covering the Rangers. We'll get the latest on their contest today with the Vancouver Canucks and all the latest happenings with the Rangers. They've been a funny team this year. Look good for a while, look bad for a while, look good for a while. It's been a funny team. And of course, it's Sunday on our regular visit with Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, also coming up in hour number 2. The Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. I had a nice comeback last night because my goaltender had a really good night, had a shutout. Martin Jones, the San Jose Sharks, 4-0 shutout over the Winnipeg Jets. So, yeah, that certainly helps my my goaltending stats, helps me get a point in the shutout category. So that's good because still use a little more scoring and a little more help. Steve Laidlaw with 5 names for you to keep in mind. It was a busy Saturday, as usual, in the National Hockey League with 11 games on the schedule. Some interesting contests as well. Some interesting results. We're past the quarter mark of the season. We're looking at teams and which ones are achieving better than expected. Sometimes teams are not as good as we thought. Maybe you're getting to the point where you think, yeah, maybe this is going to be our lot this year. Bolts have lost a couple of games. Nothing to worry about there. Philadelphia's lost 7 in a row. That's a bit of a surprise. Ottawa has gone into a bit of a funk and a losing streak, and there's frustration setting in there. Detroit has lost a few games in a row. They've been getting points. They've lost 3 of their last 4, but in overtime, they've been getting points. But still, you like to have victories. There was a weird situation in the game Saturday night with the Detroit Red Wings as well. Peter Mrazek got the start, hadn't played in a long time. And, it's a good idea to give Jimmy Howard a break. He's been pretty good. The Devils game against Detroit had Adam Henry crashing into the net and absolutely bowling over Peter Mrazek. He was kind of checked in, pushed in, nudged in, it looked like, by Jonathan Ericsson. He got whistled for goalie interference and sent to the penalty box. The Devils killed the penalty, but then they wound up scoring. Peter Mrazek spent a little bit of time on the ice, got checked out by the medical staff. However, 2 minutes and 16 seconds later, he was pulled from the game. The NHL concussion spotters went down to the Detroit bench, had a chat with the trainers and the staff and people on the Detroit bench and said, Peter Mrazek's got to come out. This is one of the difficult situations that the league has in having to deal with injuries and concussions and protocol and how this is all handled. Now, everybody's intentions, I think, are good, is that you want to make sure that players aren't seriously injured, they haven't suffered a head injury, whether it's a concussion or other. But when team personnel goes out onto the ice, they check out their player, have a little chat with him, make sure that Peter Mrazek is okay in this case, says he's fine, wants to stay in. It's hard to make a diagnosis just from a quick conversation and maybe an observation of his mannerisms. And the training staff leaves him in. Peter Mrazek says he's okay, but then the concussion spotters say, you know what? He's got to come out. But he plays another couple of minutes. This is the difficult part that we're still trying to figure out the best way to navigate through. And I understand this. Again, everybody's intentions, I'm taking that as positive. You want to protect the players. You don't care what the circumstances are in the game, whether it's a close game, whether the goaltender or other player is having a great night and playing really well. Their safety, their personal health is more important than that. I don't know if there's a better way to do this, and I'm not sure what the suggestions are or other ideas. Concussion spotters in the building, that's good. A neutral observer, one that doesn't have a rooting interest or a vested interest in the team and the outcome. I'm not sure how we better streamline this process and make it work smoothly and make it work acceptably to the players, to the team, to the coaches, and everyone else that's involved. I don't know what one of the concussion spotters saw that had them order Peter Mrazek off the ice. He says he's okay. He says he's fine. The training staff went out and checked on him. But this is a hard one. This is difficult from all sides. And again, I'm thinking of the player's best interest. You want to do what's right for them, but you don't want to take him out unnecessarily either. I'm not sure what exactly the best ways to do this. Now, is this an option? Now, this will get all kinds of hoopla started, but if in addition to the team training staff going out on the ice to check what the status of a player is, how he's feeling, how he's looking after an incident like this one, like this collision with Peter Mrazek, what if you were to have the league neutral in-building spotters also go out onto the ice? Training staff comes over. If a player's injured, if it's a head injury, what if you had the concussion spotters go out onto the ice and make an assessment right away? Is that better? It may take a little longer. I know that teams are probably going to be reluctant to relinquish that control, but is this something that maybe we should think about and consider? Don't just have your trainer go out, your athletic therapist go out. Have the league concussion spotter also go out, be part of the process. It's proactive. You are taking some of the decision-making out of the team's hands, which, of course, they'd likely be quite reluctant to do. But maybe this is a better way to do it. Maybe you don't have players staying in the game for a few minutes and then getting yanked by the concussion spotters afterwards. Maybe that's a better way to do it. I don't know. I'm just thinking of ideas. I think this might work. Let the player come out. I don't know. Let the neutral observer make the decision. That's a tough choice. If you want to weigh in, at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email. Busy first hour has flown by. We will get to hour number 2 of our Sunday program, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with much more after the break.
The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Novo product design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova product design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Being on the World Wide Web is great. Being found is the tricky part. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization is the only way your business can get a leg up on the competition. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. For the necessary tools to make your business stand out in a crowded marketplace, 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday.
This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
It's the Sunday show. It's another busy hour ahead. Latest on the New York Rangers coming up from Justin Tasch, covering the Rangers for the New York Daily News. And, of course, it's Sunday, and that means it's Fantasy 5 Day with Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of GobblerHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5. 5 names, help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. Hashtag Fantasy 5. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, Twitter and Instagram handles. Follow us, Todd at HockeyUnfiltered.com is the email. Oh, yeah, it's been a busy day in the National Hockey League with 11 games Saturday, moving into an all-afternoon menu for Sunday. Kind of like it. We had busy day on Wednesday, quiet day, turkey day on Thursday in the United States, Friday, Saturday, loaded with games, and then Sunday, just kind of a little breather. 3 games. It's a nice schedule. Some good matchups. Nashville and Carolina. It's a 1 o'clock Eastern start. Scott Darling, I see, is going to be the starter in goal for the Carolina Hurricanes again. Vancouver and the New York Rangers. Daniel Sedin at 998 points, closing in on 1,000. And the Edmonton Oilers in Boston to take on the Bruins. That one a 5 p.m. Eastern start. Those are the 3 games on the Sunday schedule. Saturday was pretty nice. Had some feel-good stories, really nice stories. Perhaps one of the nicest, most moving, the story of Alex Ovechkin, who met with young Alex Louis, who is a cancer survivor prior to the Toronto Maple Leafs hosting the Washington Capitals. Ovechkin heard that Louis was a big fan. He had battled cancer. He lost part of his right leg, but has returned to play hockey with a prosthetic. Ovechkin arranged for the youngster and his family to visit with the team when he arrived in Toronto for the game. He was on the bench for warm-up. Ovi says, yeah, sure, we'll get you one tonight. Well, he wound up getting 3, and the Washington Capitals wound up getting a 4-2 victory. A little bit earlier, we tweeted out the link to a terrific story by Mike Zeisberger that is up on NHL.com. Full night of hockey. It brings us deeper into 2017-18 in this season, and we kind of ask ourselves, are we where we expected to be? Have we exceeded expectations? Is this for real now? If we're hotter than expected in terms of our team, is our team overachieving? Hey, is this going to continue now? Is this the type of season we're going to have now, 7 or 8 weeks in? Things are looking good. Maybe we're better than we thought. Okay, is it going to last? Or does it start to creep in to what is more than what expected? Other teams have floundered at the start of the season. I love that word, floundered. Weren't meeting their expectations. Maybe there's the realization now that, you know what, maybe we're not as good as we thought we were, or some others had suggested that we were, and the expectations for our team are, well, above our head, above our reach. Edmonton Oilers. Not as good a team as many thought. Oh, yeah, they're going to compete in the Western Conference. It's a Stanley Cup final potential team. Maybe not so much. There's a lot of questions there. There's a lot of questions about other teams, too. Saturday night marked the return of Carey Price to the Montreal Canadiens lineup. The star goaltender missed 10 games with the dreaded lower body injury. Oh, but it's not as serious as the one that kept him out for 3/4 of the year a couple of seasons ago. Yes, of course, we were a little wary because the Canadiens were so evasive with information in the past. They were a little more forthcoming this time, but it was still a lower body injury. What Carey Price would get back in the lineup, the good Carey Price that had carried the team in the past, or the Carey Price that had everybody wondering what the heck is going on at the start of the season, the one that had a save percentage below .900. Look at that. Buffalo Sabres, the opposition. They had played the night before. Montreal was at home, resting in their beds. And there you go. Montreal comes up with a 3-0 shutout victory. Carey Price stops all 36 shots. The 5-game losing skid is over for the Montreal Canadiens. However, while everyone is basking in the afterglow of a 3-0 victory over the Buffalo Sabres, it is still only the Habs' 9th win of the season. You've played 24 games. You've won 9 of them. Only Buffalo and the Florida Panthers are below you in the Eastern Conference. Oh, yeah, they're only a couple of points out of the playoffs. It's true, but there's a whole whack of teams ahead of them. Now, can Carey Price continue to perform at this same kind of level as he did on Saturday night against the Buffalo Sabres, where he looked to be focused, looked to be comfortable, looked to be happy, looked to be on his game? Everything that came toward him was a stop, wasn't an issue, didn't seem to struggle at all. His team played well. They got goals from Paul Byron, Alex Galchenyuk, Jeff Petrie. These are all good things. Can this continue? Will Max Pacioretty start scoring again? Will others start scoring again, like Brendan Gallagher, who's gotten a little quiet over this 5-game losing skid? We'll wait and see. But yes, this is positive. They got a victory, a much-needed victory. If they hadn't won last night against a Buffalo team that was below them in the standings and had played the night before, then things could have been ugly again, as they have been so frequently this season for Montreal. Also snagging a win last night on Saturday, Chicago Blackhawks. Head to Florida. Kind of struggling, a few guys that had been counted on to score goals and produce. Jonathan Toews hadn't scored in 17 games, goal and 2 assists. Brandon Saad, reacquired, got his second goal in 16 games. And the Hawks got themselves a victory over the Florida Panthers. And maybe Florida is becoming the cure for slumps once again. Chicago, though, finds himself in unfamiliar territory. 11 wins in 22 games. Okay, that's 500. That's not the Chicago Blackhawks that everyone is expecting, though. This is not the Hawks that people want to see. This is not the Hawks of the past. They want to see the Hawks team up near the top of the Central Division standings, not struggling to get in on a wild card. Is this the start of something good for the Chicago Blackhawks? Fans are hoping so. They've now won a few games, 3 out of 4. Those wins, though, were all against Eastern Conference teams. This week will be a tougher one for Chicago. Anaheim, Nashville, then a home-and-home with Dallas. That's 3 games against division opponents. Perhaps this will be a telling week for the Chicago Blackhawks. Anaheim isn't having a great season, but they have half their lineup hurt, and they can still muster something. But Nashville and 2 against Dallas, that's a good test. Maybe this game gives the Hawks some confidence, a little something to build on. Hey, we beat Florida. We got some of our guys scoring that we expected to get a little bit more of offensive production from, like Taves, like Saad. Maybe it gets them feeling good. Maybe they get confidence. We have heard so much about this recently. I think more so than in recent memory. Players have to feel good. They have to feel confident, have to feel good about themselves to perform well on any given night. I guess it makes sense. But I'm hearing more and more about this than I have in the past. Oh, players have got to feel good. They got to have confidence. If they're not feeling good, they're not playing well. Chicago had it going on last night, and it was against Florida, though. 21 shots on goal in the first period. 21 shots. Yeah, there's a couple of buildings that I kind of wonder the accuracy of the shot count, but it usually favors the home team, not the visitors. Hawks had a nice trip to Florida, played in Tampa, then had a couple of days off. So, yeah, you would expect that they would come back with a good effort against the Florida Panthers. And let's once again talk about the Florida Panthers, who have once again turned into the spot where teams break out of slumps. I know that after last season, you knew it was going to take time for Florida to turn things around, to get things moving in the right direction. Last year was an awful year. They were really stinky for much of the season. And I like some of the moves that Dale Talon's made. I like Bob Bugner as a choice for a head coach. Yes, he's a first-time NHL coach, but he's got lots of experience as an assistant and a junior head coach. They've got some good players, but this team got royally screwed up. Year before last, they had that great season. They got seriously screwed up, and it's going to take a long time to fix what's going on there. They almost went back to where they were. Other teams that you want to watch moving forward, other teams that have had particularly good seasons that have surprised: New York Islanders, New Jersey Devils, two of the best teams in their division, two of the best teams in the East. Isles and Ottawa taking on the Sens. They won back-to-back overtime games against the Philadelphia Flyers. And look at that. They come up with another victory on the road, taking on the Ottawa Senators. The goaltending tandem is Thomas Greiss and Yaroslav Halak. Doesn't put a lot of fear into the hearts of their opponents, but it's been good enough for the New York Islanders. They have found some line combinations that are working. Jordan Eberle took a little while to find his way, get settled in, find the right line and line mates, but they are looking good. New York Islanders, up to third in the division. This is a surprise. There are lots of people that are still trying to turn the Islander conversation into the John Tavares future discussion. What's going to happen? What's going to happen with the new arena? Is the team going to keep him? Are they going to try and sign him? He's waiting. They're waiting on him. It's whenever he wants to make a decision and sign. If he wants to sign, if he calls up Garth Snow and says, "You know what? I'd like to sign a deal," they'll have it done in 10 minutes. He's waiting. He wants as much information as possible. It's like the Stamkos situation. I don't know that it'll get to free agency, but it's the same as Stamkos. No, I don't believe the Islanders are going to trade him. I think they're happy to wait as long as they can. Islanders are just 2 points from top spot in the division. In a really tight, really good division. It's Columbus that's ahead of them, and then it's the New Jersey Devils. They had a nice victory, 4-3, as I mentioned, in overtime over the Detroit Red Wings. Wow. All three teams in the Metro have played 23 games, and they're all within 2 points of each other in the top three. New Jersey, Columbus, Islanders. I mentioned again, that was a really, I talked about this for a second in the up near the top of the last hour. That was a really strange situation with Detroit and Peter Mrazek. The collision with Adam Henrique, getting checked by Joel Eriksson, stayed in the game after being examined by the training staff, but then pulled 2 minutes and 16 seconds later by the concussion spotters. Went down to the bench, had a chat, said, no, he's got to come out. Do you let concussion spotters from the league be part of the examination process? Would that help? Would we avoid this type of situation then? If they can go out on the ice with the training staff, with the medical staff for each team and do a quick evaluation then, is that a better way? Because you don't want players staying in and playing for 2 or 3 minutes or however long and then coming out of the game afterwards, or it being deemed that they need to come out of the game afterwards. I don't care if it's just precautionary. If nothing comes of it, it doesn't matter. If they need further examination and evaluation, it should happen right away. I don't want them playing and then a concussion spotter saying, hey, maybe we should examine this a little further. I've seen something. Maybe they've got to be part of the examination process that teams go through with their players out on the ice. If there's a collision, if there's a head injury or a suspected head injury. By the way, there's a terrific piece from the province, the Vancouver province, about former NHLer Jeff Courtnall, who was forced to retire from the game because of concussions. Talks about the difficulties he has had in his life and how he has adapted and recovered. It's a really terrific piece. We'll tweet out the link to that. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Lots to get to in the remaining time in this hour. Coming up before the hour is done, of course, our regular visit with Stephen Laidlaw, the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5. Help for you and your fantasy hockey pool. And in our next segment, Justin Tasch from the New York Daily News with the latest on the Rangers. Rangers hosting the Vancouver Canucks at Madison Square Garden this afternoon. And, I meant to promise to do this too, a little outdoor game discussion, because there's news about the outdoor games coming up. We'll get into that as well. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, back with more after the break.
So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Nova Product Design is designed for manufacturing. Nova Product Design can get the job done with mechanical and industrial design. Nova Product Design is also fully functional for laser cutting, water jet cutting, plating, coatings, and more. Nova Product Design, innovative design, and the latest technologies. Nova Product Design can design, build, and test any required types of prototypes and beta units. Visit novaproductdesign.com. We're looking for your Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day nominations every Saturday. Now you can send them through Instagram. Use the hashtag HUDogoftheDay. Send us a photo of your dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate them as the HU Dog of the Day. Include your name, the dog's name, and any other cool details you want. We choose a winner and add them to the Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition. Here Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, streaming live at hockeyunfiltered.com, live on the Hockey Unfiltered app that is available through the App Store. It's powered by Primetime Radio. Before the hour is done, Stephen Laidlaw with his regular Sunday visit with the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, help for you and your fantasy hockey pool. 3 games on the Sunday NHL schedule, including the Vancouver Canucks in New York to take on the Rangers. Justin Tasch covers the Rangers for the New York Daily News. You can follow him on Twitter at J_Tasch. He joins us now. Justin, how important is this next few days, these next few games at home for the New York Rangers? They should all be winnable games, and this could be a nice little winning streak, another nice winning streak that helps the New York Rangers.
Yeah, they definitely are winnable games, and, if you look at that, you don't want to give who they're playing, but let's say they do win these games, then they're on another 6-game winning streak, and then that's 12 out of 14 they would have won. So they take 9 out of 11 heading into this afternoon's game against the Canucks. So they're, considering where they were 12 games into the season, now they're only a point out of a playoff position. I know it's still early to kind of look at that, but that is, a kind of a feat considering where they were. I mean, it seemed like everything was spiraling out of control, and then they put some wins together.
and they got a couple of games in hand now on some of their division opponents, whereas, a couple of weeks ago they had played more games than pretty much everyone. So things have turned around here for the Rangers in recent weeks for sure.
That's a positive for the New York Rangers, but it's also an indication of how difficult it is to make up ground. I mean, if you win 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 11 games and you're still fighting just to get your nose above water, it does show you how deep a hole that the Rangers and some other teams in the NHL had dug for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it couldn't have gone much worse over their first 12 games. It kind of, everything kind of came to a head in that Montreal game where they were outshot 19-2 in the first period. Alain Vigneault and a bunch of the Ranger players freely admitted that they weren't competing in that period, weren't giving the requisite effort in that period. They ended up coming back, but they still lose that game. And that seems to be kind of a turning point for them. I mean, the next game, they came back in the third period to defeat Vegas, and then that was the start of their 6-game winning streak. But certainly when you hear things like compete level and effort being questioned, it's kind of alarming, but they were able to turn it around. Henrik Lundqvist, certainly a big reason for that, playing extremely well over the last 10, 11 games, and has gotten the Rangers back into contention here. I mean, we say contention, it is still early, but, their season was about to go off the rails, and they certainly were able to steady themselves.
Well, you mentioned Henrik Lundqvist, and you're right. His play has been very good. The question I'm sure that's going to be asked is how much can Henrik Lundqvist play, and should he be coming out game after game after game? I know the schedule has sort of worked out. That's allowed him to play fairly regularly and not have the Rangers move to backup goaltender Andre Pavlik, but you have to think about this in the longer term of the balance of the season too. What's the number of games that you want Henrik Lundqvist playing in the 82-game regular season?
Yeah, this has been a topic of conversation over the last couple of weeks. Coming into training camp, Alain Vigneault shifted away from his philosophy last year where he said he doesn't want a set number of games for Lundqvist heading into the season. They were kind of just going to go with the flow, whereas last year he had his eyes on keeping him around the mid-50s, which is ultimately where he ended up, even though part of that was, he had the flu for a little bit. He had an injury late in the year. But you know what? Right now, it's also kind of difficult to take him out of the lineup, considering how well he's been playing. As you alluded to, the schedule has allowed him to play all these games. He prefers to play a lot, and he feels fresh. He doesn't feel tired at all. I think next month and January is when we're going to start to see them pull him back a little bit. The schedule's going to get a little more hectic, more travel. They haven't had a back-to-back since October 13th, 14th, and their next one is December 8th, 9th. So those are going to start coming back into play. And obviously, it's not an easy situation for. He also, has to kind of show them something. I mean, the last couple of years they've had reliable backups in Cam Talbot and Antti Ranta. They need Pavlik to kind of raise his game so that they're not missing a beat when he's playing. But this is something that Alain Vigneault's been asked a lot over the last couple of weeks, and he's saying right now the schedule says Lundqvist, so that's what he's going with.
And who can blame him for doing that? Justin Tasch is with us, covers the Rangers for the New York Daily News. Follow him on Twitter at @J_Tasch. Rangers and the Vancouver Canucks in an afternoon contest on Sunday. Besides the improved and consistent steady play of Henrik Lundqvist, what else have you noticed about this Rangers team? Is it just compete level? I know there was a significant juggling of lines that was taking place and juggling of defensive pairs. Have things settled a little bit, or is it still a bit of a work in progress too?
Well, for a while there, I would say they definitely improved defensively, and it kind of goes hand in hand with Lundqvist's improved play. I mean, he talks about how much easier it is for him when there's better structure in front of him, when there's, they're clearing out the net front, better slot play, and definitely during that 6-game winning streak, we saw a lot of that. You look the other night on Friday, he makes 40 saves. Wasn't the most crisp defensive performance. Its head in the first period, and they end up winning in overtime. So right now, obviously, they're missing Ryan McDonough. He's out with an abdominal strain. He missed the last couple of games. He's not going to play today. He's supposed to be reevaluated today, and then they'll see what kind of timeline he's on. But, and he had his share of struggles at the start of the season. Vigneault admitted that some of the maintenance days, some of the practices that he missed earlier in the season had to do with this abdominal strain. So it seems like it was something he was playing through for a little while, and maybe that factored into some of his performances. One positive is Brendan Smith has turned his game around. I mean, he had a really bad start to the year and ended up being pulled from the lineup. He was a healthy scratch for 6 games, came back, and he's played pretty well. So, and they signed him to a 4-year deal, so they need him certainly playing at a high level. I think, they're not perfect, but they definitely have made progress. I would still describe it as a work in progress to get ultimately where they need to be, because you still have some games like the other night against Detroit where in the first period they're just giving up a ton of chances. But for the most part, things have turned around, and again, it helps to have Lundqvist back there.
Yeah, that certainly helps fix an awful lot of things. Let's try and find some positives to deal with the New York Rangers too. Mika Zibanejad, who's leading the team in goal scoring and in points. I think there were a lot of people that wondered about the trade when it happened, but I think everybody's got to be thrilled now with Mika Zibanejad and what he's been able to do for the New York Rangers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to trade a couple of years ago and then the contract he got, and when they traded Derek Stepan, he gets the contract, he steps into that number 1 center role, and there's a lot of questions about if he can be that guy or if he's more suited to be a number 2 center. Right now, he's showing that he can handle that. He's been really good on the line with Chris Kreider and Pavel Buchnevich. I talked to Zibanejad a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about kind of playing the underdog card as far as all the questions surrounding him and whether he could do it or not. Certainly, he's been a huge force on the power play. That right-handed shot, kind of on the left half wall there. The power play was rolling for a long while. It hit a little bit of a snag, but that top power play unit has been extremely effective for most of the year. And Zibanejad's drawing a few more defensive zone starts as well, and kind of getting some extra shifts on the 4th line late in the game if they're protecting the lead. So he's definitely has a bigger role. He's taken to the role. He wanted the role, and so far it's paying dividends.
Yeah, nice when a player looking for that extra responsibility and burden on his shoulders thrives under that kind of pressure. I like how some of the younger players too are starting to. There's great potential, and you're just waiting for some of them to break through. Pavel Buchnevich has done it somewhat for the New York Rangers. Injured now, but Buchnevich is another one that I think there's some really nice potential here, and I just want him to have the opportunity to show that as well.
Yeah, the Rangers seem to like Nieves. I mean, he's got good physical tools. I mean, he's a big body, he's got good speed. I mean, he certainly made an incredible first impression when he had 3 assists in his season debut. As you alluded to, he's hurt right now. He suffered a hip pointer the other night. He's not going to play today. He also missed a couple games with his stomach flu. So that's kind of hurt him as far as trying to get himself going consistently, but I think the Rangers like his potential, and he's a lot faster certainly than I realized initially, and he was playing really effective on that 4th line with Jimmy Vesey and Paul Carey the last couple of games. Good forecheck, really disrupting the opposing offense. So Nieves is definitely one to look at, and Buchnevich, as you mentioned, I mean, he's really been breaking out this year. He's been on the top power play unit the whole time. He did have a little spell on the 4th line, but reunited with Zibanejad and Kreider for that Vegas game, which started that 6-game win streak that we mentioned. So, those are a couple of young guys that are definitely worth watching going forward. Buchnevich especially has been one of the Rangers' top producers so far.
And just before we close it out, Justin, we've got to ask, the Rick Nash contract situation seems to bubble up every now and again. When the Rangers got off to that slow start, of course, it was pointed out again and again that he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. He said that he would like to stay as a member of the New York Rangers. Is this probably something that's just going to get brought up occasionally here and there as the season moves along until it's finally resolved, I suspect, in the summer?
Yeah, I mean, it's natural that this is going to come up, especially, with the kind of start that they had and where they are right now. You're going to get questions. Should they trade him? Should they keep him and try and make a run? I think a lot's going to depend on what happens over the next couple months. The Rangers love Nash, and Nash, sees himself as a New Yorker. But it is going to be interesting to see, what the market's going to be for him. If they do want to bring him back, how much is it going to cost to bring him back? But I think a lot's going to depend on what happens over the next couple of months. I mean, you look at Tampa Bay, and then after that, there's a lot of open field there in the Eastern Conference. So, if they think that they can possibly make a run in the playoffs, they're probably going to want to keep him and get some sort of big haul for him. But I think it's going to be kind of a wait-and-see thing here to see where the standings stack up kind of closer to the deadline.
Yeah, it'll be one that's worth watching for the New York Rangers. Justin Tasch covering the Rangers for the New York Daily News at @J_Tasch. Justin, always appreciate your time. Thanks for this, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin Tasch, covering the New York Rangers for the Daily News. It's natural. It makes sense as a question. Rick Nash, potential unrestricted free agent. Are the Rangers in it? Are they not going to be in it? Are they serious? Is it possible that they can make a run? Yeah, they've climbed up to within a point of the wild card as it stands going into play today. They're just a single point behind the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've got 26, the Pens have 27, and the Rangers have a couple of games in hand. So as Justin laid out, if they can win a few games, get themselves back above 500 in terms of where their division is, yeah, you want to hang on to them. The other question, too, is how much is it going to cost to bring Rick Nash back on a contract if you're the New York Rangers, and how much term are you going to be willing to give him? He's going to be 34 years old in June. So how much term are you going to be willing to give New York Rangers forward Rick Nash, and how many dollars per? Interesting to watch. It's a nice bounce back that the New York Rangers have managed to pull themselves through. Brady Shea is another one who's played well on defense. Of course, made famous a week ago in that fantastic SNL skit with Laidlaw Holmes. Let's do that hockey. Yeah, let's do. How you going to do that hockey? It was awesome. If you missed it, it's up on our Facebook page. We tweeted out the link to it as well. @Hockey Unfiltered, @Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles to follow us. Before the hour is out, Stephen Laidlaw will be with us, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, with this week's Fantasy 5, #Fantasy 5. Before the hour is out. I mentioned the Rangers are going to be involved in an outdoor game. Yeah, yes, against the Buffalo Sabres. A little more on that and other outdoor games coming up in our next segment. We'll also look ahead to games on the schedule today and games coming up this week in the NHL. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Back with more after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. It's the Sunday edition. We're here Saturdays and Sundays, 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, powered by Primetime Radio, streaming live at hockeyunfiltered.com and on the Hockey Unfiltered app. You can download it now on the App Store. Yep, just go there, click, download. It's all yours, streaming live, plus all of our podcasts available, including our midweek Little Saturday podcast. Drop on Wednesday afternoons. We call it Little Saturday because it's a little bit of weekend in the middle of the week. It's just a bit of hockey talk of what's going on in the NHL, any big stories that were happening. We just like to keep the conversation going through the week as well. Follow us, of course, on Twitter and on Instagram at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. Like our Facebook page. We always have lots of stuff there, including, as I mentioned in the last segment, that great skit from last week's Saturday Night Live show with Chance the Rapper playing the hockey reporter. Laszlo Holmes, checking out the hockey. It's really cold. How you going to do that hockey? It was really funny. If you want to check it out, it's up on our Facebook page. We tweeted out the link as well. I mentioned that the Rangers are going to be involved in an outdoor game. Yes, the Winter Classic, the 10th anniversary of the Winter Classic, will also have the Buffalo Sabres, who were involved in the first Winter Classic. Yes, I guess the first one is always the best. The snow globe effect with the Buffalo Sabres and the Pittsburgh Penguins in that football stadium. Little snow coming. Sidney Crosby scores the shootout winner. Beautiful game, beautiful goal. Just an event that absolutely came together perfectly. It was wonderful. It was special. And you can never recreate as good as the first one, but you can still do them. And I've been a proponent of outdoor games. I like them. They're great events. Now, the Sabres involved along with the Rangers this year. They revealed their Winter Classic unis this past week. No coincidence in that. Just in time for holiday shopping. Black Friday, stores opening up, ordering online. Of course, that's when they're revealing these new jerseys. Hey, look at these special unis that the Sabres are wearing, which got rave reviews. And the Rangers went kind of, yeah, some like it, some didn't. Some thought they were terrible. You know what? It's for one game. It's fine. It doesn't really matter how cool or not so cool it is, or whether the color is a little darker blue than it should be in terms of the Rangers. So some like it, some don't. They're fine. It's one game. It's Winter Classic, and they'll sell a whole bunch of merchandise. That's the objective. Can we please, though? They've already announced a couple of other outdoor games coming for 2019. January 1st, 2019. Chicago Blackhawks, Boston Bruins are going to play at Notre Dame. We mentioned it a few weeks ago that this was the speculation, the announcement was coming. It did. Following that, the Philadelphia Flyers and Pittsburgh Penguins are also going to play an outdoor game in February of 2019. This one's going to be at the football stadium, the Link in Philadelphia. They played outdoors in Pittsburgh. Now these two are going to play outdoors in Philadelphia. Okay. We've already made these announcements. It's booked. It's going to happen. There's no way around it. Can we please have a moratorium on certain teams participating in the Winter Classic or outdoor games. Hawks, Boston, Flyers, Pens, they're already done. They're already announced. But enough with the same teams again and again and again. It is not the frequency of the outdoor games that is the problem. Yeah, maybe 6 in a year was a bit high. But doing 2 or 3 of them the way it's happening this year, because there's one in Ottawa with Montreal and Ottawa in a couple of weeks, that's fine. But it's the same damn teams over and over and over again. That's what draws the criticism. I like outdoor games. They are terrific events. If you have not been and you want to do a hockey travel tour adventure holiday, well, pack about 20 layers of clothes, but go. It's a fun time. They're great events. I went to the Buffalo and Pittsburgh practice day and everything the day before. Freezing cold. I was working, but it's great. It's a fun time. The city that hosts them loves them. The teams that participate in them, great, fantastic. Great crowd, good thing to do for your fans. It's sensational. Great crowds, great atmosphere, lots of money made. And don't forget that, because it's a big part of the equation. There is a lot of money made at these games, whether it's the Winter Classic, whether it's the Stadium Outdoor Series, whatever you want to call it, or Centennial Classics, or Canadiana Classics, or whatever they're calling them. They make a lot of money at these outdoor games. And that's cool. That's part of the process. Costs a lot of money to stage. You should take in a lot of revenue. But let's put a moratorium on some of these teams playing over and over again. Otherwise, people are going to start jokingly referring to them as the Chicago Blackhawks Outdoor Stadium Series. Or the New York Rangers. I can live with that one, I guess. But Pittsburgh, Chicago, Philly, Boston, and let's throw the Rangers in there too. Take those 5 teams out. Let's not see them for a while. Hawks, Pittsburgh, Rangers, Boston, and Philly. Let's just take them out of the equation for a while. Everyone would benefit. Yes, you're right. They've been good citizens. They want to be part of it. They want to help the league and grow the game. And that's cool. I appreciate that. But enough. It seems as though there's a couple of things that are all working and trying to work together, but not as efficiently as they should. And that's the reason we keep getting these same teams over and over and over again. And I think the biggest driver of that, I feel, is television. And that's where the mistake is. Outdoor games are great. They are fantastic events in that city, and for fans of the team that aren't in that city, that travel to it for the game. Hockey fans in general will travel to cities to see games. We don't have to have Chicago and Pittsburgh and Philly and Boston every single year. But TV wants that because they want to drive the national ratings. That's not the important part. Whether you have 1 million people watching on television, or whether you have 1.1 million people watching on television, or whether you have 900,000 people watching on television in the U.S., it doesn't matter. That's not what makes it a big event. It's a local event. In the city and surrounding area, great. You're always going to have a certain amount of the population that will watch on TV because it's a unique spectacle. New Year's Day, outdoors, January 1st, holiday for so many. Hey, cool hockey game. The NHL is playing 2 teams outdoors. It doesn't have to be the Hawks every year. It doesn't have to be Philly every year. It doesn't have to be Pittsburgh every year. The Stadium Series does not have to be the cross-state series between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers to be successful. If you have outdoor games in other cities, they will be successful. I'll give you a few that I want to see. Number 1 on the list, outdoor game I want to see involves the Nashville Predators in Nashville. That I am stoked for. That is a party waiting to happen in a city that understands how to create atmosphere, how to have fun, how to understand tourists that come to the city and want to experience music and have a couple of cocktails and have a good time. Nashville should be number 1 on the list for outdoor games. We're going to have to wait a while because they've already announced them for 2019, because you got New Year's Day, Notre Dame, and that's fine. Notre Dame, I get it. It's a cool thing to want to do, to play there. You want Chicago because it's in close proximity, and you want Boston because, well, they're a historic team. Well, that's great. Philly and Pittsburgh is a moneymaker. Outdoor games will be moneymakers. Nashville should be number one on the list to hold an outdoor game. The climate, conducive, not too hot, not too cold. Did we not learn last year in the Stanley Cup final how alive that city becomes? How about during All-Star festivities a couple of years ago? It was sensational. That's a city that should have an All-Star game. There's a couple others as well. Dallas, who are going to be hosting the NHL draft next June, should also be a city under consideration for an All-Star game. Yeah. Or not for an All-Star game, but for an outdoor game in addition. That's what we needed. The climate, good. Great destination city. That's a place for an outdoor game. Columbus, if you can stage it at Ohio State, that would be tremendous. Columbus for an outdoor game, and I'll give you another one that should have an outdoor game. You did California a couple of times. Tampa should be the host of an outdoor game. Yes, Tampa Bay. You can do it. The climate is not too humid. It's absolutely the spot where you could hold an outdoor game. Think about the festivities when you're checking out All-Star in January in Tampa, whether you're watching on TV, listening on the radio. If you're there in person, even better, like we're going to be. That's the place for an outdoor game. It would be very cool. But enough with the Chicago, the Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. You don't have to hold them there. It's not about trying to get a national TV audience. It shouldn't be. Put them on TV, that's fine, but it's not the big national draw that you're hoping for. That doesn't matter. The money-making part is local. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, the Twitter and Instagram handles. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email if you want to weigh in. One more segment to go up to the top of the hour. Stephen Laidlaw will join us with this week's Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5, help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. Back with Stephen and the Fantasy 5 right after the break.
There's special savings for Hockey Unfiltered listeners with our new ticket partner, Seat Giant. And Canadian fans can also purchase in Canadian dollars. Go to SeatGiant.ca, find the tickets you're looking for. Doesn't matter if it's NHL games, concerts, or any other event. You get a special discount with the promo code TODD. That's Todd with 2 Ds. Just enter the code, get the discount, you save. That's simple. Save on your next ticket purchase with Hockey Unfiltered and Seat Giant. The best way to get set for the busy Saturday night of hockey is with Hockey Primetime. Beginning at 5 p.m. Eastern, host Connor McKenna whips you around the league for the latest stories and info leading up to the early game starts. Plus, he'll give his own spin on the biggest stories in the National Hockey League. Hockey Primetime with Connor McKenna. Sometimes serious, sometimes a little goofy, but always interesting. Listen live at hockeyprimetime.com, 5 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Search engine optimization is the key to success for your online business. It can be the key to success for any business. 1-844-SEO-LEAD is the number to call to get your business at the top of all searches. An official partner of Google, they have the tools necessary to make your business the one people notice first. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now you can nominate your dog or any dog you love as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day through Instagram. Every Saturday, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis will take your nominations for the Dog of the Day. Use the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Send us a photo with the dog on Twitter or Instagram to nominate your dog. We choose a winner at the end of the show, and your dog will be recognized in the HU Dog of the Day gallery on our website and Facebook page. Hashtag HU Dog of the Day. Creativity and innovation are the hallmarks of Nova Product Design. Whether it's mechanical or industrial, cutting-edge technology and a commitment to excellence make Nova Product Design the company to choose. Prototypes and beta units are a Nova Product Design specialty. Striving for revolutionary new ideas and methods keep Nova Product Design at the forefront of innovation. Visit novaproductdesign.com and learn more.
Welcome back. It's the Sunday edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. Hashtag Fantasy5 up next with Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com. Follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports. He is the managing editor of DobberHockey.com and joins us this week at this time. Once again with this week's Fantasy 5. Help for you in your fantasy hockey pool. Steve, how's the week going for you? I got a nice comeback last night because I had a good goaltending effort from Martin Jones.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good to hear. It's another day in paradise here. I mean, ups and downs, but I'm not going to hang everything on winning or losing in a fantasy hockey pool. So
no.
I'm feeling good.
Excellent. I'm pleased to hear. Well, let's help some people out with some fantasy hockey names and some good ones this week and some interesting suggestions. Number one on the Fantasy 5, hashtag Fantasy 5 from Steve Laidlaw is Nick Leddy, the defenseman for the New York Islanders. What do you like? Well, the Islanders are playing pretty well. I guess that weighs into Nick Leddy. Steve, you still with us? Apparently, we lost Steve. Darn. Oh, well. It was going so well, though, too. We will endeavor to get Steve back and let him give you the Fantasy 5. Failing that, I will recite the names before the top of the hour. But I'm interested to see how some of the games shake out this week. Nashville and Carolina on today's schedule. Only 3 on this Sunday schedule. Nashville and Carolina going to be UC Saros, who's going up against Scott Darling in that goaltending matchup. We mentioned that Vancouver is in New York to take on the Rangers. That is a 2 p.m. Eastern start time. Looks like Henrik Lundqvist. It will be Jacob Markstrom in goal for the Vancouver Canucks. And maybe the most interesting game of the day is a 5 p.m. Eastern start with the Edmonton Oilers in Boston to take on the Bruins. Tuukka Rask will be in goal for the Boston Bruins. The Edmonton Oilers will have Cam Talbot in goal. But the Edmonton Oilers, just looking at them and thinking about what's in store for the Edmonton Oilers. They have a terrible game a few days ago against St. Louis. They have a bounce-back game against the Boston Bruins, and then they lose again. And then there's the whole what is going to happen with this team discussion that is going on with the Edmonton Oilers. Are they really this bad? Are they as bad as their record indicates in this season? Are they really the second worst team in the Western Conference with only 18 points and a record of 8-13-2? Are they really that bad? Certainly, there's question marks about the Edmonton Oilers and some questionable choices and decisions were made, but I don't know. Also coming up this week on the schedule, Philadelphia Flyers in Pittsburgh to take on the Penguins. Flyers are going to try and snap a 7-game losing skid. I was just talking about the Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins who will face off against each other in a Stadium Series game a year from February. We're announcing them that far out. I'd like to see some other teams. Columbus is in Montreal coming up on Monday night. We'll see if the Canadiens can win 2 in a row. The Columbus Blue Jackets should certainly be a much tougher choice or a tougher selection than the Buffalo Sabres were on Saturday night when Carey Price returned to the lineup. 36 saves, shutout. That's good news. Minnesota is in Winnipeg. Anaheim is in Chicago. Those are all Monday night games. Good games. San Jose is in Philadelphia coming up on Tuesday. Columbus is in Nashville on Tuesday. There's a good game to watch. Toronto's in Calgary beginning a Western swing. And Dallas is in Vegas. I don't know what it is about Vegas. I still can't. It still doesn't seem real to me. 15-6-1 on top of the Pacific Division. 9-1 at home. Won again yesterday. Yeah, sure, it was against Arizona. Okay. But Arizona's played a little bit better. Is this really a good thing for Vegas to be winning this much? Do you want them to be winning this much? I'm not sure if it's good for Vegas. I'm not sure if it's good for the NHL. It's nice for them to win a bunch of games. It's good for morale, good for ticket sales in the early going. You want to generate some buzz, get some attention in the city. But how many games do you really want Vegas to win if you're one of the other 30 teams or the National Hockey League? That's great that you've got this new expansion franchise and the first professional sports franchise in Vegas. First one in the city. I don't know. How much do you really want them to win? How many playoff games do you want them to win? Do you want them in the postseason? Can you win with this group if you're the Vegas management? George McPhee. Gerard Gallant wants him to win every game because he's the coach. But if you're George McPhee, is this a team you can build around? How good is this group? If you make the playoffs, you imagine the screams that Vegas is going to get from other teams? Do you maybe want to quietly, over the next 20, 30, 40 games, the midpoint of the season, just sort of slip back into the pack a little, just kind of have a good record, have a nice season, but do you really want to continue at 15-6-1 clip for the balance of it? I'm not sure. Are you really that good? Do you want to slip back a little bit and then maybe you can sell off some of those assets like James Neal, David Perron, even Lucas Spiza, maybe Clayton Stoner, might fetch you a little something at the trade deadline? I think you do. Maybe you can keep Jonathan Marchessault, only at a good contract, though. Don't give him way too much money. He's on a good contract now. That's why he's an asset. You really want them to be winning a whole bunch of games, winning that many games? If you're the NHL or its member teams, how much success do you want this new bunch of guys to have? If you're the Carolina Hurricanes, you're the Florida Panthers, you're the Arizona Coyotes, Buffalo Sabres, maybe Colorado, how much success do you want Vegas to have? Is that your team? Is that the team that's come into the league? You've been struggling, trying to rebuild, trying to gather your assets. You had to surrender one of them to this new expansion team for the good of the league. I get that. But just how much success do you want Vegas to have? And if you're the league, sure, you want the team to come in, create some buzz, sell some tickets, get some attention generated in the city, start to establish themselves as good corporate citizens, members of the community, generate a local fan base, people that are going to come out on a regular basis, spend their money, watch the games, consume them on television as they expand and grow as well. But do you really want them to have too good a season? I don't. I don't think it's good for the league. I think you get some frustrated teams and you get some frustrated fans in other cities as well. I want them to come in. I want them to do well. I think it's a good story. I don't want them playing 900 hockey at home. 7 out of their last 10 games overall, 5-game winning streak. That's great early on. We appreciate your enthusiasm. Now knock it off. Let's just kind of come back to earth a little bit if you're Vegas. I'm not saying I want you to lose for the rest of the season, but if you slip back in the standings, I'm not going to get too upset about it. I think that's going to be good for the league in the long run. And it's going to be good for Vegas in the long run too. This is not a deep, sustainable group or organization as yet. You got a bunch of players that were, in some cases, reluctantly surrendered, other cases, willingly surrendered. And you've got a nice starting point. You don't have a real team that you can build on. We did get Steve back. Steve, are you with me? Steve, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent. Okay, let's rip through the Fantasy 5 real quick. I'm sorry that we lost you. We're right up against it in terms of time now. Name number 1, Nick Leddy of the New York Islanders.
Yeah, since reorganizing their lines, they've been scoring in bunches. Barval and Eberle are doing great. And then, of course, the Tavares line is awesome. So Leddy's got 18 points in his last 14 games, and he's putting up over 2 shots per game, which we love to see.
Okay, in 30 seconds, Nito Niederreiter of the Minnesota Wild, also ripping it up.
Yeah, absolutely. On pace for over 200 shots on goal. We love guys who shoot the crap out of the puck. He's doing it this year. He just recently had a 6-game goal streak snapped. 5 of those on the power play, most power play time he's seen in years.
Alex Edler of the Vancouver Canucks, back from injury and on the Fantasy 5 list.
Yeah, last week we talked about the Brock Best monster, and now he's on the power play. Edler's on the power play with Brock Besser, so that unit's scoring a little bit. He's got assists in 3 straight, so he's a deeper league option for folks.
Brock Best monster. I love that you were tweeting about that too. That was awesome. It's a real thing. Matthew Perreault, the Winnipeg Jets, also on the Fantasy 5.
Yeah, so he's kind of toiling on the fourth line for the Jets, but he's always been an elite scorer at 5-on-5, and he's getting some power play time as well on the second unit. So he's giving them a nice depth option. When he got back from injury, he ran off a 4-game scoring streak.
And Anton Hudobin of the Boston Bruins, the goaltender. Tuukka Rask is starting Sunday, but Anton is a worthwhile pickup now if you can.
Yeah, I mean, he started the last, I believe, 4 in a row for the Bruins. He's providing a more consistent option. Rask has been all over the place the past few years. 2 years ago, it was a horrible first half of the season and then awesome second half. Last year, it was an awesome first half, terrible second half. Seems to be yo-yoed back to a terrible first half. So Hudobin's providing some consistency for a team that does well in the shot metrics. So he should be available on your waiver wire. You can pick him up for some spot starts while he's ringing up a .920 plus save percentage.
Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, at Steve Laidlaw, #Fantasy5. Steve, thanks for this. I apologize. We're so out of time. We'll give you more time next week, but thanks for this. We'll do it again.
Yeah, absolutely, Todd. Take care and have a good week.
Thank you. Stephen Laidlaw, the managing editor of DobberHockey.com, and that'll do it. We're right out of time. Thanks to Justin Tasch, to Brian Burns, to Dave Isaac, to John Walton, all for joining us. Thanks for checking out Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. You can check out our podcasts on iTunes, on iHeartRadio, and on the Hockey Unfiltered app. Back with you again Saturday and Sunday next week, beginning at 11 Eastern.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Look, we know it happens. Life gets in the way and sometimes you can't catch the live edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. But we've made it easy for you to catch up on the show you might have missed. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis is available as a podcast on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and Blog Talk Radio. You don't want to miss an episode. If you missed the live show, check out the podcast. Don't miss any shows. There's a test coming up later. Subscribe now. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Use the code Get the Savings. Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis listeners save with Seat Giant and the promo code TODD. That's TODD at SeatGiant.com. Just log on to SeatGiant.com to find the best tickets to NHL games, concerts, or whatever you want and save. Use the promo code TODD. That's TODD when you check out and you save. Canadian listeners can save at SeatGiant.ca. That's SeatGiant.com and .ca. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit NovaProductDesign.com to learn more.